My name is Wyatt Ball, and I'm going to be presenting on a recent article from Utility Dive titled Carbon Markets Are Incomplete Without Nuclear by Guido Nunes.
All right, to start it off, we're going to go over the overarching theme of the article. The overarching theme of this article is that the current carbon markets, which are designed to incentivize low carbon energy, actually exclude nuclear power. This exclusion creates distorted incentives and it puts nuclear at a disadvantage compared to other low carbon options like wind and solar. And ironically, it increases fossil fuel use. When existing reactors shut down currently, they're often replaced by natural gas or coal and not by new renewable resources. So, Guido Nunes argues that without reform, carbon markets undermine their own credibility and they slow down decarbonization by replacing the carbon neutral option that is the nuclear plant with natural gas or coal. The first overarching theme that I wanted to talk about related to our course was resource landscapes. Our course describes resource landscapes as institutions, policies, and values that shape the energy sources and resources. This article is a clear example because of carbon credits. Carbon credits are a constructed resource. They represent the right to emit 1 metric ton of carbon or its equivalent. Companies or utilities that reduce emissions below their allowance can sell these credits, while those that go over must buy them. So it creates this financial incentive to invest in cleaner technologies. But the issue with that is nuclear's left out. So even though nuclear avoids emissions, it doesn't generate credits, and regulators are effectively redrawing the resource landscape by deciding which technologies count as low carbon and which ones don't. Investors naturally flow towards the technologies that earn credits like wind and solar, while nuclear is financially sidelined. This result is that nuclear, despite being a proven low carbon option, appears less attractive in this political landscape. And that alters the mix of technologies that'll shape our future energy systems and pushes us backward because people rely more on the natural gas and wind and solar instead of a proven option like nuclear because of the lack of carbon credits. The next concept I wanted to cover was slow violence. Slow violence refers to harms that build up gradually, often unnoticed, but have long-term destructive effects. In this case, excluding nuclear from the carbon markets doesn't cause an immediate collapse in emission goals. Instead, the harm unfolds slowly. When reactors close early because they can't compete financially, they are almost always replaced by natural gas or coal and not by renewables fast enough. The result is a creeping rise in emissions that isn't obvious day to day, but compounds over decades. The same is true for public health. Fossil fuel plants contribute to air pollution, which increases rates of asthma, cancer, cardiovascular disease. But those impacts are hidden over time. Like that's not something that you're going to notice immediately. So the policy choice to exclude nuclear from those carbon credits sets in motion a kind of slow violence. It locks communities and the climate into incremental harm that only become clear years later. It's not like a straight pipeline or a direct collapse immediately. It's a slow violence that slowly affects everybody. Carbon lock-in describes how existing systems such as infrastructures, institutions, and markets reinforce fossil fuel use and make change harder. Carbon markets are supposed to break that lock-in by rewarding low carbon options. But if nuclear is excluded, the system ironically deepens the lock-in for nuclear, making it harder for it to become a viable option. Why? Because it funnels investments only into certain technologies like wind and solar while still depending on natural gas for backup. Over time, utilities build gas infrastructures, investors pour money into pipelines and plants, and regulators normalize this as the standard system. The more we build, the harder it becomes politically and economically to switch from natural gas and other resources to nuclear. The article argues that unless nuclear is included now, it'll almost be impossible to add it later. The carbon market framework itself becomes a locked-in pathway where fossil fuels remain part of the mix because nuclear wasn't given a fair shot at the beginning. This shows just how the policy doesn't shape just short-term outcomes, but it also creates path dependencies that will lead you into long-term lock-ins for decades. So what does this all mean? The key implications are that reforming carbon markets to include nuclear can keep them in the framework that is currently built and keep existing reactors online and open up a pathway for new reactors to come in. It'll attract investments because of the carbon credits that they get for the nuclear reactors now. And ultimately, it'll accelerate decarbonization. Without reform, nuclear struggles to compete financially, leading to more fossil fuel reliance. The takeaway is that the market design isn't neutral. It determines which technologies get built and therefore whether net zero targets can realistically be met. Adding them in, where you have a proven concept that works, like a nuclear power plant with low carbon emissions, if you completely exclude them, you're never going to hit that net zero that you're looking for. This last slide is just my reference slide. You can see the paper by Nunes, and then the course readings, and then Utility Dive. Thank you for watching my video, and that is all.